All right, we are live. We have some stuff today. This is the Meat of the Matter podcast. That's Mark. He's Peter. I'm Tony, and we meet. You matter, and we're doing this every Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Dutch Netherlands, 6 p.m. UK Irish time. And how are you doing, boys? We've got some things to talk about today. I got a couple things lined up. I know Peter has some stuff, but how's the week, boys?
The week's been great.
Great.
How you guys doing?
Good. Aside from, today we're going to get into, we'll welcome your comments, welcome your questions. Hello, Rick. Um, you know, every week it seems that there's something that the mainstream just keeps throwing out there. And I know us being carnivores, today we're getting into what's your beef. And I don't mean steak selection. I mean, we got some problems. And this one, to me, it seems like it's been gaining traction. And if you guys don't mind, we'll start off with mine. And it's something that I just see, like all throughout my journey, you can sort of see once the patterns start happening and how things have escalated, like from the pandemic to the climate change to whatever way you think about this. It's not a surprise. They're coming after beef. They're coming after food. There's two things here today for me. One, and we'll get into this one after because it's probably going to take a little bit of discussing, is the bird flu. And there's a problem in the States right now where they're jacking up the egg prices. There's an egg shortage. I know Peter and I have mentioned this a bit. I don't know how it is in Ireland, Mark, but it seems to be like that looming presence of now they're going to come after the food. And there's some details about it that we'll get into. But first, I want to talk about this it's been on my radar for a little bit, but it's Bovaer. Now, for all those people that don't understand what this is a food additive to cattle to make them fart and burp less. So I'm just gonna, before we get into this, I'm just gonna share the screen and I'm gonna read this Bovaer, and then like you guys will jump into this, but and then we'll get into some nuance here because this is so important because it's one of those things. Another thing that they think they're doing that isn't, they deem it safe, but we'll get it. Bovaer is a feed additive that reduces methane emissions from cows. It is designed to help dairy and beef farmers reduce their environmental impact. How it works. Bovaer inactivates an enzyme in the cow's rumen that produces methane. It's added to the cow's feed along with grass, hay, and grains. It's broken down into compounds that are already present in the cow's rumen. Benefits, arguably. Reduces methane emissions by up to 45% in beef cattle. Reduces methane emissions by up to 30% in dairy cows. Helps farmers reduce their carbon footprint. Helps farmers improve their cows' digestion, immunity, and overall health. Bovaer is safe for cows and is not transferred into milk or meat. It is safe for workers to handle when it's used as directed and appropriate personnel protective equipment is used. Bovaer has been approved by regulatory bodies such as the European Food Safety Authority, the UK Food Standards Agency, and I know for a fact it's legal in Canada since January 2012. 2024. What do you guys think about that? How does that make you feel?
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mental. I wasn't actually aware of that.
Yeah. So, and then there's so many different things here. Being carnivores, all of us being meat-based and like using, in a perfect world, we'd be eating pasture-raised animals in their own environment as close to God and Mother Nature intended. There's so many things here that just like blow my mind. Now, I don't want to get political and I don't want to get into the climate change, whether you're a climate change denier or like activist, but I can tell you this. The carbon footprint was created by British Petroleum. Mm-hmm. And now it's not a surprise that they're monetizing and profitizing carbon footprints and carbon this, and in Canada it's a whole mess with the carbon tax. But is messing with God and Mother Nature a good idea? Mark, do you want to take this one for the first person?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We want to be keeping everything as natural as possible, if you ask me. Yeah. Everything is just going really, really bad at the moment. And the more natural we keep stuff, the healthier people are going to be.
And, Peter, they say it's safe. What's your feelings on it?
Yeah, well, even if it's safe, I'm wondering about the nutritional aspects of it. So I really don't know anything about Bovaer, but the fact that it inhibits certain enzymes, it will have an effect on what kind of nutrients the cow gets in its body. And who knows? Yeah, maybe it's as simple as a slightly lower protein content or a higher fat percentage. It could be sort of okay, although even that's questionable, of course. I think there's a natural percentage, natural balance of all these things, but that's just to keep it simple. I mean, that probably a lot more will happen. I mean, that's.
Well, let's look at it. One more thing here, and what is Bovaer? You asked, and what does it affect? So I'm going to add this to the stage, and the active chemical is 3-nitrooxypropanol, and it's an organic it's synthetic organic compound, if that makes any sense. Anyway, it targets the methyl coenzyme M reductase, the enzyme that catalyzes the final step of methogenesis in microbes living in the digestive system of ruminants. So what I have to say about this is methanogenesis. When we're talking about methylation and how our bodies use the methyl group, that's aging. Is it possible that could be doing that to us? And if they deem it safe, what the hell? That's where it blows my mind. How long has this been in production? How long has it been? How the hell can they tell us it's safe when, look at what's happened with glyphosate. They say that's safe, and it's clear that there's a problem. And, when everybody's going climate crazy and they think this is such a great idea to mess with God and Mother Nature, look at us. We're going to tie this into hormones. Look at what happens when you mess with GLP-1. Look at what happens when you mess with testosterone and estrogen. Is it possible?
Tony, you read more about this, so I even don't know this fact, but this substance, this Bovaer thing, does it get broken down fully, or does it remain also in the body of the cow, and does it end up in our food, for example?
Well, that's the thing. When you're dealing with methyl groups and acetyl groups, like these are chemical, like biochemical reactions that are happening all the time. So if you're not getting methylated, you're technically, this very layman, but you're aging faster. That's the methyl group. So when we're getting methyl donors, the methionine in the amino acids in meat, how can you start telling us that it's safe? And, when we look at nature, like this is my point right here. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little charged up, but there's 4 billion cattle on the planet. There was billions of buffalo, bison, ruminant animals back in the day. Do you think maybe the humans are the problem if you're going to go that route? How the hell is a cow that's put here perfectly? It eats grass, it chews the cud, it provides us with all this beautiful nutrition. And how is that the problem with the climate if you're going to go that way? Well, you're looking at, China and India mass producing, you know what I mean? And I don't want to go political, but stay away from the bloody cows, man. And stay away from our food. That's Absolutely. What I'm kind of like, it charges me up, man. And it's just, it's all this speculative science that's, don't worry about it. It's good. Well,
is Bovaer, is it made by silicon dioxide?
I'm not sure, but it's a synthetic. It's 3-NOP, which is like that nitrooxypropanol. So it's a petrochemical.
I know.
Obviously.
I wasn't actually aware of this.
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of this at all.
And you notice how you say a good point there, because you notice how you're not aware of this. Why? Why aren't we informed about that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is just another level of, we're going to have to figure this out, because, all of a sudden they're going to be injecting this shit or feeding the cows this stuff. And, poor cows, that's like Ozempic for the cows.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why it's extremely important when it comes to food labeling. You need to understand where all these names are, because this is what I'm struggling with at the moment. Like I'm trying to learn as much as I can with all these food labels, because when you look at what's happening in the last 20, 40 years, you can see that I think you put up a comment today, Tony, that the ingredients are as long as the lake now. They're getting unbelievable. Like I put up a video today, and there was at least, I think there was around 25, 30 ingredients in this single in food. And none of it had any proper nutrition in it whatsoever.
Yeah. It's and I think it's so hard and so frustrating. Like, I mean, you look at, I just found this out today. Like, Alex Jones back in the day, whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. He said, oh, they're putting chemicals in stuff that turn the frogs gay. He was talking about atrazine. And I just found out today that they've been using atrazine in Canada for corn, wheat, and soy agriculture. This has been known to turn frogs gender.
Wow.
Like, so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at what's been going on in our world and resort that to it. I know they put atrazine in the water in the States. I was not aware of them using it as an herbicide or whatever, a pesticide, but apparently it's all over the place. And it's just another thing that, like, I don't care if you're a vegan, but don't you want wholesome, whole, natural food? Like, that's, and I mean, when we're looking at this stuff, in the name of what? In the name of sacrificing all of our potential health disasters to push this products, and it just really, it's hard, because
and what's the guidelines on this? Are they saying that this shit is like
perfectly safe? Perfectly safe. I'll try and find it, but like, Peter, how is it? I know we've talked about this before. We'll probably tie this into. I just want to get to this comment because Marinus, it was good. You guys want to deal with this or talk about this comment? I'm just going to find something on atrazine in it for a second.
What's he saying? I can't really see the comment there.
Yeah, he's talking about this example, this case study in Florida, I think, of a guy that was eating presumably, what was it, 8 or 9 pounds of dairy products like cheese and butter a day.
Mm-hmm.
And his cholesterol went up to like 1,000 milligrams, so 1 gram of cholesterol per deciliter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's even high for a lean mass hyperresponder. And this guy developed all these bulbs in the skin, these yellow bulbs of cholesterol collecting right under the skin. It's called xanthelasma, I think. And yeah, so what's the question actually about it? It's a good remark anyway. That's what's happening. That's they jump on this, and well, if you look at the article, there are actually some comments of other scientists under it, and they are explaining like, oh, this could be this and this of a kind of genetic disorder that could be at play, that sort of things. And personally, I think you should question the entire thing, because eating 8 pounds of cheese, it will clog up your bowels before it will clog up your arteries, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
But it's amazing how they do this. And there was this other study about a year ago or so, and that has been fully debunked by Ken Berry and Nick Norwich. That was this keto guy. He was already a heart patient, and then he stopped statins, I think, went on the keto diet for, I don't remember, a few months, 1 or 2 years, but just nothing on the time scale of atherosclerosis.
Hardest word in our space to say, yeah.
But this guy wasn't even keto, I think. That was already the question. Like, he was probably still eating like 50 grams of carbs or so.
Yeah. So, and just to kind of get back to what we were talking about, and if you're listening, it would help us out. Just hit that like button and push our algorithm. We're trying to get the word out. We really appreciate all your comments and all this stuff, because, we're trying to get the word. Now we're going to get back to atrazine. This is atrazine. I just Googled, is atrazine legal in Canada? Yes, it is. Yes, atrazine is legal use in Canada for agricultural purposes. Could there be others? But it's not available for home use. So that's great. Health Canada has approved atrazine for continued use, but has also initiated a special review to access its risk. Well, that's great. Atrazine is a herbicide used to control weeds in crops like corn, sorghum, sugarcane, and sweet corn. So just saying that, all those alternative crops, like, you know, when we're looking from if you're eating grains and you're talking about ancient grains or alternative grains, sorghum is one of them. And look what they're doing. So atrazine is a huge problem. And I mean, it's crazy. So if that's in Canada, I can only imagine, you know, I never knew that. I never knew. I thought they were putting it in the water in the States, but apparently it's everywhere. So these chemicals, man, it's just horrifying that they're doing this. And no awareness. Like, I mean, I've been 4 years into this. I had no idea about atrazine. And and the Bovaer stuff, it's like, oh, it's this new climate agenda. So it's better for the planet, shitty for us. Let's just use it. And it's horrible. It's horrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a way to look up in which dairy products it's being used, actually, this Bovaer?
Yeah, if you guys want to continue this, I'll have a look. Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark. You were saying something.
No, I was just going to say I'm actually going to do a little bit of research into this myself. I'm actually going to look at it myself in this country, because I mean, as I said, I've never been aware of this. Never. I've heard a little bit about it, and I heard a little bit that Bill Gates was kind of involved in this. I think I saw on the news a couple of months ago, but I didn't actually look too much into it. But now that I've heard from Tony, I'm actually going to do a lot more research into this now, because it could be in this country also.
Yeah, here it's definitely being used. I mean, yeah, if we're talking about Bovaer still, then and then I think in Denmark it's been used a lot. So we have the cheese the butter from Danone. That's presumably it's there. And I don't know how it works. It's probably also like a matter of whether they pay attention to it or not, which farms they get it from. So maybe it's not necessarily Danone itself that is adding the Bovaer, because it's...
So here's kind of what I just found right now. According to information from DSM Firmenich, and I have looked this up, it is BlackRock Vanguard. They own this stuff. The company that produces Bovaer, the product has been in commercial use for over 2 years. It's considered safe by multiple food authorities. Bovaer is a feed supplement use. So guys, they're allowed to use this anywhere. So yeah, wow. You know what I mean? So this is another thing that just cropped up. Like, how the hell did we not know this?
Yeah.
You know, and now it's like I'm gonna be hard pressed to go buy my beef from Walmart, because, you know, the big box, the Cargills and all the main, they're not telling us about this.
No. Why should they?
Yeah.
Why should they?
So that's a pretty big beef that I have. Like, I'm pretty concerned. And I mean, you know, I've been trying to do my best to support local farms, but now I think it's worth a conversation, especially in the
Absolutely.
to talk to the farmers to see how they feel. Because I know the last half cow I bought, the guy was like, awesome. He's like, I don't touch any vaccines. I don't touch any, like, they eat grass. That's it. So, you know, now if the government puts pressure on all these things, like, it's just a mess. Man.
Yeah, and you shouldn't only be careful for the big corporations. Just a local farm, if it's pressed by government to comply with certain nitrogen policies, like here in the Netherlands, they might be convinced to start using this stuff as well. And so better ask also the farmer, I guess.
So maybe we'll start a poll. If anybody's listening to this, tell me how you feel about not knowing that they're putting a food additive into cows' feed and grass and grains to stop them farting. That is ridiculous. And, you know, when you look at this stupid carbon footprint crap, they're monetizing it. You can see it's an agenda. You know, I'm not saying I'm not all for a green earth. I am all about protecting our planet. Mm-hmm. But this is not natural. And, you know, whether you feel however you feel about fossil fuels or not, that's a human issue. That's not the poor animals. So, yeah, it's just it irks me. So that's the next thing I want to segue into, boys, is, I don't know if you heard, but Peter, we talked about this before we went on air. they're killing birds, and it's happening in the U.S. Egg shortages, and you probably, in my awareness, the Dutch farmers have been the most vocal. I don't know if anybody else knows about this, but I mean, through alternative media sources, I've seen it for quite a while. What's going on in Holland and around you?
No, definitely, and I think every 2 years or so they are, how do you call this in English? Well, they are
Culling.
First putting all the chickens and other birds inside. They cannot go outside. No transport is allowed, and then usually hundreds of thousands, millions of chickens get killed to eliminate the bird flu. And that's if there's any problem, of course, it is related to the big farming, putting all the chickens together.
They're not going to stop until we're all eating shit out of a lab, are they?
And if you look at it, like, guys, this is going to be a little bit, like we said, nothing's off the table, so we're getting into it today. This is controversy. However you feel about the pandemic, it's my opinion, and this is my opinion. Don't take any offense to anybody that decided to do whatever they wanted to do during it. But if you look at profit, the largest transfer of wealth in the pandemic, that's kind of crazy if it's a humanitarian effort. So regardless of how you feel, that happened. Now, what are they doing? What have they been doing? Why? It doesn't make sense that they're coming after beef. We know there's an agenda about how making beef, colon cancer, bad for the planet. They go every which way from Sunday to try and kill. Now they're going after our food. And if you look at, there's a guy who, he's controversial, but he's been exposing this stuff for a long time. He's a free thinker. He's a conspiracy theorist that's turned out to be right at every aspect. If you look at the end game, you will be able to see why. Now, if they're talking about bird flu coming after health and nutrition, they've already got something planned to deal with it. Their idea is there's an end game here. So I think it's to vaccinate all the animals, like mandatory vaccination. And if you look at the way that they're doing it, they're PCR testing a flock of chickens. If one or two chickens, instead of quarantining them, they kill the whole. And in the UK, I know, Mark, you were around during this, the mad cow thing. I had no idea. I was actually in the UK during this. But now that I looked at like Ivor Cummins actually brought it to my attention, I looked at this documentary about how they dealt with it. It was ridiculous. They were just executing animals for no reason. And it's happening again. And you can just see they want our food, guys. This is not,
and the whole mad cow disease was, of course, the people themselves are to blame for it, because they were feeding the UK cows bone meal from cows.
Yeah.
And one thing with these prions, that's a weird thing. I once looked it up. They are not like bacteria or viruses. So even if you cook it or whatever you do with it, so even if you process it probably and you convert it into food, and because this has been highly processed, this bone meal, but still those prions remain active or sort of dormant. And once you get them also as a human, I do believe that it can be dangerous. And you can question maybe those few cases of Creutzfeldt-Jakob are in more sensitive people with lower immune systems, that sort of things. But I do think that it's quite a serious thing. Of course, you don't want it, but it's totally gone now. I don't think there's even one case.
Once again, look to nature. We're messing with nature. And when you mess with nature, and that's for all the Ozempic Wegovy people out there. You want to mess with your hormones, mess with nature, there's gonna be a trade-off. And it's usually not good. So, it's tough when we're dealing with our food. And I mean, obviously, all of us and the people that are going to be listening to this, that matters because that's everything, our food supply. And I mean, it's whether you want to talk about bird flu or not, like if they go for backyard chickens because it's a mass culling or whatever it is, and then the food supply goes down. But don't worry, we got Beyond Meat. We're going to have fake eggs and Beyond Eggs and crickets. And I'm not happy about that. So I think bringing this awareness, So people, if you're hearing this, share this because it's worth a talk. And if someone says, don't be silly, this is stupid, well, you know what? Just look around. Look around at our health and look around at
like I said, Tony, in the last 100 years, you just need to look at the food supply. Like it's not rocket science. I was only looking at a documentary here a few weeks ago. It was actually before Christmas, and they were actually showing the ingredients back in the 1960s, the 1950s, and it would have been around maybe 10 ingredients max. Whereas you look in the last 20, 30, 40 years, that has like tripled.
Yeah.
They're actually putting more into the food now.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's beyond belief that the amount of chemicals that are put into the food now, and nobody is questioning it. People are just looking at it and saying, okay, well, this is just food.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just food. And then we have the whole plant-based group people out there that are saying this shit is amazing for you. We should be all going plant-based. We should be not eating animal food. We should be looking after animals and not killing animals. But when you look at the amount of processed shite that's in this food, and you see the amount of people that are getting sick, and you notice that not only are they losing the weight, but they look absolutely fucking horrendous. They look horrendous. They look like zombies.
Yeah.
You look at a person that's eating an animal-based diet to someone who's eating a vegan diet. The difference is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
You may be losing weight, but honestly, your health looks you look older. I've seen people on a vegan diet and they look older than me.
Well, you know what, Mark? Like what you're saying, it's a trick. Because the perfect plant-based diet, cutting out processed foods, which we can all agree is horrible, but there's going to be a honeymoon phase. You're going to feel better because you're cutting out all the crap. And that's sure. But don't sit here telling me fiber is the new protein. Okay? Now, we can argue all day long how much fiber you need, but it is not protein. And don't start spouting that off because you're just going to harm people. And I think this is a good time to get into a little segment that we're going to be starting, and I'm just going to play it, and then we're going to start it. We're going to do this every week because we got something that we're going to be introducing every week because we just love it when he raves.
These guys are getting richer while you're getting sicker. Write that down. 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 These foods are highly processed, complete garbage, and I can promise you now, I wouldn't even give it to my fucking dog. Write that down.
Is the best thing ever. So we're gonna do a little. I got a clip here, Mark, for you.
Yeah.
And we're gonna play it, and we'll just see and we'll all kind of go with it. And I'm just gonna try and lay it down here.
These guys are getting richer while you're getting
that make you fat. And don't let anybody, and by the way, anybody that tells you it's not the calories, here's what you do. You stop listening to them, you flip off, and you lose that person. They're either don't get it, okay? They don't understand the law of thermodynamics. And if you don't understand the law of thermodynamics, then you can't have a conversation with anybody. Now, I'm not saying that 2,000 calories of French fries is equal to 2,000 calories of chicken and broccoli. No one's saying that.
Yeah.
But it is the total calories you burn versus the total calories you intake is the body composition change that happens daily, hourly, weekly, period. And don't let anybody tell you anything else. I don't care if they've got 17 PhDs behind their name. They are full.
All right.
It's the calories that make you fat. And by the way, anybody that tells you it's not the calories, here's what you do. You stop listening to them, you flip off, and you lose that person. They're either don't get it, okay? They don't understand the law of thermodynamics. And if you don't understand the law of thermodynamics, then you can't have a conversation with anybody. Now, I'm not saying that 2,000 calories of French fries is equal to 2,000 calories of chicken and broccoli. No one's saying that.
Yeah.
But it is the total.
So, Mark.
Yes, sir.
He seems to be preaching the same stuff on every video.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Where do you want me to start? There's so much to cover. I mean, let's focus on the law of
I
thermodynamics,
love it.
because that's the main thing what people go on about. People think that everything is based on the law of thermodynamics, that a calorie is just a calorie. It doesn't make a difference where that calorie comes from. And once you're in a deficit, you're going to lose weight. Here's the problem. You eat 500 calories of bananas and eat 500 calories of steak. Let me know which one is going to fill you up a lot more. Let me know which one you're going to eat and you're going to continue to eat. I can assure you it's not going to come from the steak. And
But
that's the problem.
But Mark, I'm not saying broccoli and rice isn't like a bunch of French fries, but is it?
It is, when you think about it. It is, because like this food is just as bad. Even though it's healthy, people are saying it's healthy food. It's fiber, it's vegetables, it's protein. Guys, this is gonna have the same impact on your body. The exact same impact. It's gonna that energy is gonna run out very, very quickly, and you're gonna end up eating again. So this is why we need that. We need that satiety feeling. We need food that's actually going to control hormones. When we look at our hormones, like look at the macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats. Each one is going to have a different response on the body, completely different. Carbohydrates is going to have the biggest response. That's going to lead to more issues with hunger. You'll get a little bit of an issue with protein if you're on a high rich protein diet and you're not eating any fats at all, because if you're eating too much protein, that will be converted into sugar.
Yeah.
Plus, you also need to look at the fibrous vegetables that you're having. These are also carbohydrate sources. So, you know what I mean? You're missing out on the main macronutrient, which is the fats.
Yeah.
So if you want to slow down the absorption and give your body the right nutrients to absorb, you need to give your body the food the way God gave it to us.
That's
and
it.
It's just pure nature. You need to be eating the protein and you need to be eating the fat. So when we look at the calorie model, there's so much rubbish when it comes to calories. We need to understand this. The body is not a calculator. We do not run off a calculator. Our body has no idea what a calorie is. A calorie is a unit of energy. That's it. We spoke about this at the very, very beginning. When we look at our energy sources, we can run off both fats and carbohydrates. Okay. Now, here's the problem. If you're eating too many carbohydrates, that's going to run out. So you're going to notice these spikes, these crashes. That's when you notice your hunger's going up. Yeah. So when that carbohydrate runs out, you're going to have to eat more. When you eat food that's rich in protein and fats, you can go for ages without eating any more food.
Yeah.
And that's the way we should be taught about our food.
No doubt.
Mark,
we should be eating. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, people will then say like, okay, so that makes it more difficult or easier to gain or lose weight, and you'll just get hungry more easily. But if you limit the calories, it's still calories in, calories out.
Exactly. And the thing is, though, you need to understand this as well, that when people come out with this, like, carbohydrates have 4 calories, that's complete bullshit. Complete and utter bullshit. When we look at, when they talk about, okay, if you want to go in a deficit, you need to take 500 calories off your overall calorie intake. So let's say for me, for example, if you look at social media, this is what they preach. In order for me to let's say my maintenance calories is 2,000. Now, if I want to drop weight, I need to be in a deficit of 3,500 calories every single week. Every week. Okay. So or monthly, whatever it is. So they'll be saying to me, okay, I need to take off 500 calories off my overall maintenance calories and eat 1,500 calories a day. That's a form of starvation. Now, if you're eating 1,500 calories, you have to consider this. Where are those calories coming from? Are you eating like good food, like really good nutritious food? or do you have a balance of you're eating like healthy food of like oats and fucking vegetables and a lot of chicken, all that kind of stuff? Now, here's the problem. If you're eating that food and you're still hungry, and then you have these influencers that are telling you, like, listen, okay, don't worry about that. You're meant to be hungry. You're meant to suffer. You're meant to go through all this misery. This is the reason why you guys are going to struggle, because you're listening to the wrong advice.
No doubt.
You need to understand that not all calories are equal. That's a fact. That's
a
fact.
So what I ask you, Peter, do you run away from someone saying calories in, calories out?
Well, yes and no. I also like to stay because I'm triggered to try and convince him that of the opposite. But by the way, this remark of Rick, it's a good one. It's that's the whole. Well, one of the biggest points anyway. And the proteins is a good example. And in terms of calories, if you eat if you eat your wooden plate together with your meat, then you would ingest about 5,000 calories, I think. And once I looked it up, like if you have a bottle of olive oil, 4,000 calories, and if you take a small liter of acetone or a cleaning product like that, you'll also get those calories. So, yeah, if I bring those examples on the table, sometimes I do it in the comments under those videos, you always get, I don't know, they find some excuses they are suggesting that I'm just being ridiculous and so on, but
of course
it's still true, right? You use the extreme examples to make a point. And obviously it's not true for the average food, but still, if you eat fibrous foods like whole grain or truly whole grain wheat, for example, what do you see? It will end up like corn pieces on the other side in your stool. And no doubt, and that's actually an issue. So if you look up also how much of carbohydrate in the form of fiber is actually absorbed, because some of it is absorbed either via bacteria or so in the colon, and they use some how do you call it? Rules of thumb.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, maybe it's 50% of it that gets digested and turns into calories. That on itself also should make people aware that at least the food labels are already typically 10, 20, maybe even 30% off. If your stomach has a bad day, who knows? You are absorbing 10% less of energy from your food.
So much, so true. And like what I have to say, all I have to say is this: protein, energy. Protein, energy. Figure that ratio out.
Doesn't work out. Yeah, doesn't work out.
Like whatever way, it's not calories, protein requirements, and your energy. You can store it, you can use it, and you can recycle it. But that just blows the calories in, calories out model, because we're measuring everything the same. It's not equal. It's not equal.
100%.
So,
yeah.
I just want to say, Mark, I think you were saying you got to go. You got somebody to. You're helping save the world. So I just wanted people to, Peter, if you want to talk about I want to get into your beef if you're going to hang around, because we're going to be here for a little bit of talking. But Mark, let people know just before then you can just take off when you're ready, how people can find you. And man, I encourage everybody to write this down. Go ahead.
Right, guys. Well, I have to go. Well, and it was great to be on again. So, guys, if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on all platforms on Fitness Beyond Time 01, or you can send me an email at nsmark93@gmail.com, and I will see you again next week.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming, Mark. And, always a pleasure to hear your, I love it that it's, right to the point and no bullshit. So everybody, if you need some help, Mark is there. That is great.
Thanks very much, guys. I'll speak to you very soon, right?
Okay, my man.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.
Peter, it's you and me, buddy.
Yeah.
So I had my beefs. We've had like write that down now. Now, Peter, what do you got a beef to share? What's your beef?
Yeah, well, so I didn't prepare a video or so, but I'm recently beefing a lot. I don't know how you say that in English. with
Yeah, that's it.
Dr. Itz, and particularly, well, Dr. Itz, and there's this other guy. What is his name?
Dr.
He
Allo?
has been in a discussion with Ken Berry recently about oats.
Oh,
And
jeez.
this type of discussions really bothers me a lot because two things happen. It's about carbohydrates-rich food, and Dr. Itz, in this case, he talks about dates, and there's a lot of good stuff in dates, like minerals, vitamins,
Boron.
boron, and also sugar.
Yes. Yes.
So you've got to bring a very good story to convince people that it's actually healthy to eat it. Because, if you want the vitamins, get it from something else. You can get it from, I don't know about boron. I didn't look it up, but no doubt you can get it from something that is not rich in carbohydrates.
Yeah.
But, it gets worse. Then, and that triggers me as a diabetic, as to prove that it doesn't do harm, they'll get some research papers, some randomized controlled trials also. So sounds very good. And then it's it appears to be research in 50, 100 people, that sort of research. But okay, good, well controlled. And in this case, Dr. Itz tells that in type 2 diabetics, it does no harm to glucose control. In fact, it might actually improve glycemic control. And then I start wondering, okay, I'm prepared to accept anything. So maybe actually it's better to eat dates compared to what? That's already what I start thinking. But first, I want to know, what is this improvement? So who has been studied? And if you look it up, it appears to be a type 2 diabetics population with an HbA1c ranging between 6.8 and 10% or so.
Jesus.
So basically, there you can already throw it in the garbage bin, this whole study, because to have those type of HbA1cs, even as a type 1 diabetic, you've got to do a really bad job, unless you have been recently diagnosed, but I think they also controlled for that.
Yeah.
The population consisted of type 2 diabetics that were diabetic for some time and were now on a stable regimen of metformin, I think.
Yeah.
So not insulin, but metformin, because probably they wanted to exclude the insulin part, because then you get the whole issue that type 2 diabetics start eating dates and take more insulin and compensate for it. But anyway, the improvement of glycemic control was, I don't remember the figure, but it was ridiculously low, like 0.5. And so it's a pity that I don't have it on the screen. But if you look up also the uncertainty ranges, the standard deviation of it might already have been inside this range. So in theory, it could mean that the A1C actually doesn't change at all. But overall, badly controlled type 2 diabetics, I think no matter what you do, if they start eating dates, you can be lucky that it compensates a little bit, that they start eating less at McDonald's or so.
So you've hit a couple things on the head here, because from what I'm aware of, dates would be a Middle Eastern sort of delicacy thing. And why are they dried? Well, maybe it's because back in the day, they might have needed some energy on the road. Contextually, they wouldn't have been eating 15 times a day, grains. You know what I mean? So this is the context. Are they ethnic food? Possibly. Dessert? Possibly. But now we've blown dessert way out of the ballpark. Like dessert, we're having dessert 17 times a day. So that changes everything. Now, the other thing is that whole thing about natural sugar. Sorry, sugar is sugar.
Yeah,
the natural side, it's okay, I just eat maple syrup. It's natural. Okay, but it comes from nature, but it's still glucose, fructose. And that's the problem, is the way you're looking at it from the scientific side, the context isn't there. So if you're talking from a diabetic standpoint, a type 1 diabetic standpoint, or somebody who's metabolically not well, dates may be a very bad, or sugar addicted may be a very big problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
and there you've got to blame those influencers or doctors even that talk in this way, because you're confusing the health of general people with a healthy metabolism with people that have type 2 diabetes, and for those it's just really absolutely not a good idea to eat those things.
Yeah.
And they also talk about it in terms of HbA1c, and for healthy people, that might be a good indicator for health of sugar levels. But if your sugar levels are uncontrolled, if you go outside this range above 5.5% or so,
You're looking for trouble.
an HbA1c of 6 could mean still elevated sugar, but reasonably controlled. It could also mean a totally uncontrolled glucose that is all over the place. So they are abusing this research to make a point. And nowadays, of course, and this research is actually not so old. So that's actually surprising that they didn't let those participants wear a continuous glucose monitor, for example, because you'll hear also in the comments, you'll always see all kinds of type 1 and type 2 diabetics telling, like, I'm wearing this CGM and I'm seeing a glucose spike still.
Blast off. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm putting on my CGM, I think this week. I've got it. It's on the way. And I'll do a little experiment on the camera. We'll see. Maybe next week or something. But
that would be interesting, because sometimes also for non-diabetics, there was this guy, I don't remember. Oh, yeah, it was Dave Feldman. He was doing this sort of experiment that I did recently as well, so I will not talk too much about it. But after keto, he introduced carbohydrates in the form of white bread or so. And so he was really switching suddenly to a standard American diet, basically. And his glucose stayed at 170.
Okay. Yeah.
All day. He was almost deciding to quit the experiment because it didn't feel right. But in a healthy person, these things can also still go out of whack.
And that's a big thing. Like, we want people to know we're not doctors, we're not scientists, we're real people that have had our own, Peter and I both have done experiments on ourselves. Like, I mean, I've done, quite often, eat, I might do this soon, eat another dozen eggs for a day, see how I feel. I've done fasting challenges and stuff with my clients and friends. And what I think the message is, there's so many things out there, and you got to use discernment. You have to look at things contextually and really look into the what's going on really. Because when the reason I'm not a nutritionist, I don't want to give people cookie cutter advice that is one size fits all, because you know what? I'm all about essential nutrients. And last time I checked, not only carbohydrates aren't essential nutrients, but chronic elevated glucose levels and chronic elevated insulin levels doesn't end well. So telling somebody to eat, and we can get into fruit and honey and if you're metabolically flexible and using it, there's maybe a place. But I mean, as far as it's just everybody's got their own thing. And I mean, learning about how blood sugar works and insulin, is such a valuable tool, because I'm glad I spent the first 2 years of my low carb into carnivore diet really focusing on my blood sugar control and seeing how things worked. And once you see it, once you realize how this stuff could be affecting you, it can put things into perspective.
And all you've got to do is buy a CGM for one time, wear it for 2 weeks, $50-$60, I think. And I mean, in fact, you don't have to do it for a long time.
In fact, every single person that I coach and my clients, they do that for 2 weeks. So pretty much the first 2 weeks is eat anything you're normally eating. And we get to talk about insulin, because I find when people see it, you can explain things a little bit better and understand how it works and the different blood sugar spikes of exercise and dawn phenomenon. And when you start bombarding them with all this stuff and they don't have anything to reference, it can be very confusing. But, it's like, we're supposed to have 4 grams, half a teaspoon of
Yeah.
glucose in our blood, and anything else, it's possibly doing damage. So,
And where does this research come from, or these remarks like dates are good for you? I think two categories of people, either vegans, which
Yeah.
also have an idealistic, another agenda,
Yeah.
or people that are actually eating it. The children, let's say, that don't want to miss out on their bowl of oats.
yeah.
And they are seeking excuses to eat it. And well, that's all fine, but do realize what you are eating, and if you're eating it while you are very active, then yeah, as you said, there might be a place for it. 1 or 2 dates while you are out for a walk. I think if as long as you're not type 2 diabetic, it makes perfect sense.
And then
it also makes perfect sense to not eat it, but in those situations, you could also consider it as part of a proper human diet, in my opinion. That's sort of makes, if you would find it in nature as an opportunistic carnivore,
and
or opportunistic omnivore, actually, then you would eat it.
Tying it into the human way, remember, everybody, a lot of people are diabetic. They just don't know it. And it's the disease is happening. You just haven't been diagnosed yet. And if you're not getting your constant blood work done, and you're not following this, it's just going up, 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 up. I can speak from experience. Before you know it, you're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic, and they say that you got to manage it, which is complete bullshit. If you start right now managing and being aware of this stuff, Jenny was well, you were going bananas. We had Jenny on last week, and she was telling, it's insulin resistance, and it's the awareness of this stuff. It's just, there's a lot of different ways. I'm not saying you must be a carnivore. Do I think it's a good idea? Hell yeah. Do I think you must? No. I think there's different ways to be aware of this. And if you understand where you're at and where you're coming from, it's not going to be shocking when you go to the doctor when you're 50 and say, oh, you're diabetic, here you go. And that's the awareness that we're trying to bring out here. And I mean, Peter is type 1. You have to manage this very closely. This is imperative for your health. I was pre-diabetic, arguably type. It's the same thing. It's just the time factor, and I reversed it because I had to be aware of this. And all I urge people to do is don't be desperate. Share this stuff, because we're not speaking, in foreign. We're not telling you to do anything. We're just saying to start building your awareness. And if you think an animal-based diet is unhealthy, well, do some due diligence here. Like, just look
in terms of metabolic health. A lot of the population would benefit already by going sub 100 grams of carbs a day.
Exactly. And I mean, we're proponents of low carb keto. We all started there, I started there. And then once you start realizing the natural progression into the carnivore diet, if you will, was just eliminating the stuff I didn't need. And I mean, I don't miss salads. I don't miss broccoli. I don't miss it. And I'll tell you what, I don't really care anymore. If I wanted broccoli and I walked through the supermarket and I was like, that looks delicious, I'm going to have me some broccoli. Now it doesn't matter. I don't think it would do anything to me. I mean, I eat vegetables when I'm out for, go to my mom's house. She has a salad. I'm not opposed to it. I don't think it's benefiting me. It might be a little bit of a different flavor, but it's more the dressing. I'd rather just do a shot of olive oil and vinegar. But, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a big step also. I mean, you don't have to eliminate the salads. And I think most salad leaves are quite benign still compared to, for example, spinach. As long as you don't add the dressings with the seed oils and the sugar in it.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing where I'm a big believer in finding your way. I'm more against the vegetables now because of what they're doing. I mean, we just talked about it earlier. Go back to the beginning and learn about atrazine. That's in our soil. So if they're monocropping and they're using that as an herbicide, what do you think that's absorbing into? We're all water, 70% water. We are. Plants are too. They have water. Water is the great godly communicator. So if atrazine is in the water, it's in your plants, it's in the soil. Why would I don't want that shit? So I don't eat the plants that they. I mean, if it's in a garden and I know that they've done nothing to the soil, I might eat some vegetables seasonally, but I don't really care about them, and I definitely don't trust the supermarket vegetables, organic or not. And that's my opinion. Anybody's free to do whatever they want, but you know. And Peter, I have a question for you because this is something I was thinking about today. We talk about superfoods. Okay. Now, could you survive on nothing but broccoli sprouts? What would happen if you ate, or even chlorella?
Would be an interesting experiment. I don't know if the human body would adapt to it. Who knows? Maybe you'll go through 10 years of deprivation and our bowels appear to be able to, to convert it in all the things we need, but I don't think so.
And it's just like, if you think about it. My boss is a very big believer in chlorella, and I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I like the idea. It's a chelator, can strip out heavy metals. There may be a time and a place for it. But surviving on it, he says there's more protein gram for gram than beef. I'm like, well, then eat chlorella. Only eat chlorella. Because I'll tell you what I would do. If I go lion diet for 7 days, I feel pretty good. But I don't think I could eat 2 pounds of chlorella and feel that good. If anything, it's just. So is it a superfood, right? We look at that.
Yeah, there have been a few videos on Instagram, I think, recently about indeed what you talked about, like those vegetables being high in protein, and then they measure it in terms of per calorie.
Yeah. And
yeah, that's funny.
I've got to say hi to Handsome B Wonder Boy. Hello, brother. Welcome back. He's been like, I appreciate following me for the last 3 years since I started. I think he's been around, so it's great to see you back, and I hope you're well and you keep doing your best, my brother. That's awesome. Peter, we're pushing an hour. I want to mention something. Are we going to do this? Are you going bananas on Thursday? Are we doing that?
Let's try. Yeah. Okay. I went bananas for too much lately, but let's do one more time.
Just give people we're going to do this. It'll be a recording. It won't be live. But Peter, explain what you did and how you and just give the Cole's Notes version, and then we're going to get into it.
One thing that's nice to tell about it. It's related to what we talked about. That you'd explained that you don't miss anything like vegetables, and I've been eating some other things, which I'll tell about more on Thursday. But once I stopped, I felt so relieved, really, and on that day, being able to just solely eat meat, because I continue to eat meat, of course, with something more. Yeah. But I was happy to exclude it.
Yeah,
really, and it's not so much that. I mean, I had some symptoms from it, but aside from that, I also didn't feel like eating it, and I just didn't want it. I wanted solely steak, nothing with it. That's the weird thing.
I think that's the animal instinct coming out, right? Like, that's just your intuition guiding you, right? Like, you knew.
Yeah, and it's funny because some of those foods I really liked a lot. Another example would be peanut butter. I liked it a lot, and I cannot imagine now, although I still like the smell, but I cannot imagine eating 100 grams of it.
When you know that what's going on with the peanut butter, that's
So oh, that's another story. Yeah.
Stay. We're gonna put that out. We're gonna do it'll be called Look Out for on our channels. Peter Goes Bananas. He had a little experiment on himself. I'm proud of you for doing the N of 1. I can imagine there's been ups and downs in the name of real science, Peter. I love it. Mm-hmm. And we're here every Sundays. Thanks, Rick, Handsome B Wonder Boy, Michelle, Carol. Thank you for being here. And we're trying to get the word out. We appreciate all your help. If you can subscribe, share, all that stuff. Peter, where can people find you?
Dutch Carnivore. My name is on the screen, I think, on the various social channels.
And thank you, Charles, showing up. I appreciate it. We're here every Sunday, the Meat of the Matter podcast. It's me, Mark, and Peter. You can find me at TonyStewartCoaching.com or, on social media at either Tony Stewart Coach or Tony_Food for Thought on TikTok and Instagram. And thank you guys for, putting up with our beefs. We probably will have more. We're, nothing's off the table. We appreciate your comments and questions, and we're going to see you next Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. in the Netherlands, 6 p.m. UK Irish time. For Mark, he's Peter. I'm Tony. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
See you next time.